Welcome to another edition of the Game Sports Podcast. The Game Sports Podcast is powered by 91 Network. Tonight on the Game Sports Podcast, I'll be joined in the first segment by Connor Henderson, talking all things all around the diamond in the world of Major League Baseball in our Strike Zone segment. In segment 2, I'll be joined by Dane Hancho and Alex Parr, talking everything that comes to the ice, such as the National Hockey League, CBA, LTIR, as well as the 1986 NHL Redraft, plus much more. In the third segment, it'll be yours truly riding solo, where I'll be talking the NFL in our mini In the Pocket segment, and I do have a bonus topic at the end that you don't want to miss. Let's go. Booyah, and it's time for the Game Sports Podcast. David McKeag hosting you this evening. And right off the hop, I am joined by the one, the only Connor Henderson, the Rookie of the Year. If you know, you know. Connor, my friend, how's it going?
It's good, Dave. Glad to be back. We're really close to the start of the season. We're going to tee up some fun stories here, especially for the Jays. I'll let you lead it off, but there's some really exciting and pretty cool news that they've got coming up.
There's a lot. There's been some movement, if you will. There's been some news since we've last spoke a few weeks back on a prior edition, but we're still in spring training ball. We don't have any regular season discussion. We're not in the regular season mode, but there were some changes in terms of people's addresses, and most particularly sticking with Matt Chapman, moving on over to the San Francisco Giants, taking quite the pay cut than apparently what the Jays are maybe willing to pay him. But nonetheless, he goes over to California. He is a California-born lad, so I'm sure he's glad to be back in his home district, if you will, and him going to California shouldn't have been a surprise to anybody. If he was going to remain a Jay, it would have been a lot sooner that he resigned. So I wanted to touch on Matt Chapman first. I know there's Tiger fans that were maybe expecting a little bit of a Matt Chapman splash, but if the Jays weren't getting Chapman, I don't think the Tigers were either. He had his mindset where to go, and truly I think, if the Oakland Athletics were a better baseball team, he probably would have went back there because he was quite the piece there. And he was great in Toronto. He was a good fit, but honestly, he wants to go somewhere else. If you don't want to be part of a team, sayonara. That's the way I like to see it. So I'll start off by saying Matt Chapman going to the Giants. Obviously, it's not really too much of a surprise. There's still names that, of course, remain out there to be signed. But, Connor, there is one name that isn't anymore, and you mentioned that as a name for the Blue Jays fans. I think it puts a smile on everyone's face. It's another one that I don't think is a surprise. You have Joey Votto, who, of course, had his little video that he uploaded going through the car wash or whatever he was doing, and he was saying people are in spring training and here I am doing this. And a couple days later, it's like Ross Atkins saw that post and he's like, what am I doing? Like, I got to sign this guy. This is moneymaker. This is a Canadian boy who had a bib on as a baby that was a Blue Jays, and he's been in Cincinnati with the Big Red Machine for his entire career. Now he's coming home. It's a feel-good story, Connor, and I think it's a fitting towards somebody who is going to be retiring. I would assume at the end of this year, this will likely be his last year. And I'm sure he's hoping for big aspirations for a championship. Going to be very tough, but he's home.
Yeah, he is. And it's really neat to see here in this story in particular, if Joey Votto can squeeze out a little bit more life out of his bat in this final season. I think in the last 4 years, he's only had one season where he's played above 100 games. This is obviously not a situation where he's going to come in and be an everyday guy, right? It doesn't make sense. You got Vladdy, you got other guys. Jays want to be flexible with their DH spot. You're not going to be seeing Joey Votto get rolled out there 162 games this season. But if he can, chip in just a bit, maybe 15 home runs, get the batting average somewhere in the neighborhood of, he's been struggling in the low twos for the last 2 or 3 years. If he can get that somewhere near like 250 and then give us a few home runs, I mean, that's one heck of a story. And it's really cool to see him come home.
Well, you got Vogelbach, who is obviously another big slugger who is, if he gets a ground ball in the infield, he's out. It's pretty automatic. But the Blue Jays have really prided themselves for many years getting guys who can hit bombs. That's the way I'll say it. And there's a new direction when the Bautista Donaldson era moved on. I don't like even saying Bautista Donaldson era because I think of it more Bautista and Encarnacion, right? Those are guys that were along for the ride a lot more many years, but obviously Donaldson had some quite success there. But this has been a team who's been referred as Mount Crushmore at the time that they were, right? Vladimir Guerrero can hit bombs. There's, of course, George Springer who can hit home runs. There's Bo Bichette, who is more of a contact hitter than somebody who I think is going to hit 50 plus for you in a year. But the potential's there to get to the high numbers in the home runs. There's a team that's very deep. The one thing that was really strong for them last year was defense, and that's why they brought in someone like Dalton Varsho, someone who really underachieved though last year for them, especially for what they gave up. We've had that discussion on this podcast already, that stings a little bit if you're a Blue Jays fan, and we talked about it when it happened. But given what he did in Arizona, if he can bounce back, that's great. Kevin Kiermaier, there's another guy that I don't think is going to get you 20 plus homers. I feel like there's a guy that can get you 10, but his defensive play is going to be unbelievable. Chapman leaving, that's a platinum glover you're losing. That is a massive loss there, but they have some guys coming through the ranks, and Addison Barger is one guy. There's some good internal opportunity, as much as people want to maybe chirp the Kyler Kalefa signing and maybe this Votto signing. Yes, it's a disappointing summer, if you will, or disappointing winter going into the summer, of course, because people wanted that Shohei Ohtani, that big Juan Soto. They wanted both. If you go back to the Game Sports Podcast channel on TikTok, I was almost praising that both were going there. Okay, so there's expectations that maybe weren't met. I know we're going to talk about the Tigers, speaking of expectation with money, but there's still an opportunity there in Toronto for Votto to bounce back and make this a tremendous story. Maybe there is success at the end of the tunnel. Maybe he's the guy that says touch 'em all Joe, right? His name's Joe. Maybe he's going to hit a big home run this year, just as much as Joe Carter did. No, jokes aside, there's an opportunity for Votto to be in a different situation. It's a hitters-friendly ballpark at of course, the Rogers Center, a fully renovated ballpark, mind you. And I think Votto's going to be set up for success there. It's just going to be interesting to see how Schneider uses the lineup. And I have a lot of criticism towards bringing Schneider back, but I guess we can't blame the Twins' execution about Jose Barrios on fully him, apparently, his analytical team. I don't know if any of them got fired. I feel like they should have, but sticking on point, he has tools that he can use with the bat. I'm interested to see what he does with that third base position this year. I know that there's obviously there's people you can use there. Escobar, you got Espinal, you got Biggio, you can put a third. There's options, but they're not Matt Chapman defense level, right? So I'm curious to see what the rotation is. But we're saying Votto, and I think he's set up for success to really have a good bounce back story in Toronto at a very big hitters ballpark. It'd be interesting to see where they go with more, if it's Vogelbach or Votto, how they're going to manage that on the bench, because obviously having two big sluggers on the bench that can't run and only DH, using a roster spot, right? So you got to be smart with that lineup. You're a coach, Connor. You got to have that balance. Yeah, maybe is having two DHs effective, or would you rather have two first basemen with one of them that can at least run the bases? Or does Biggio still that guy that plays all over the diamond? Espinal all over the diamond. He can't play first, mind you. So there's a lot of tools that can be used, but I still think there's some holes that could be addressed. But if they're pitching, that being the Blue Jays, can be as successful as last year, the hitting can turn it around. This can be back to the dangerous team that everyone thought that they were. But I love the story. You gotta love it. Joey Votto, Canadian, back home. It's fantastic. It's truly fantastic.
Yeah,
but I'm gonna, Sorry, Connor, go.
Oh no, it absolutely is, and it's a tough spot to be put in as a manager when you're in a position where you don't have the most flexibility with your DH spot, especially as the game continues to get more and more athletic.
Yeah.
Gone are the days of just having complete dumpster fires at first base or third base or DH. Like, you want to have athletes at every position. And if you can get a full squad of athletes and be able to use your DH position for something other than like a 40-year-old potato who can't move, that's perfect. That's perfect. That's what you want. But it's easier said than done.
It is, and it comes with a price tag and interest to play there too, right? Depending on what your market is. And I don't want to say it's not attractive to play in Toronto, Detroit. It absolutely is. But when you're contending with the Dodgers or Yankees, right, the pinstripes is a national a national trademark in baseball. Those Red Sox or the pinstripes, right? It's a national pinpoint. Same with the Giants, right? That's legendary organization. So it's maybe we can look at it that way if you're a fan, maybe ease the blow a little bit from some players that didn't go there this summer that you thought, or anyone who may not or will not go there. But if anyone's looking to play in Toronto, you're playing in front of a whole country. That's unbelievable. And I think Toronto Blue Jays fans have shown that it's a market to play for, especially in the playoffs. And I say we as a fan base, because I am a fan. As a host, I try to avoid to say that, but I always hear the story about when Bautista did the bat flip, how the Rogers Center shook. And if you know the Rogers Center, that is a big, big field. That is a concrete, pure all-around dome. That's what that is, and that place shook. So if there's any players who are looking to play ball and you end up listening to this podcast and you're a free agent in the major leagues, just put down your greed and money for a minute. And there's some players that are still out there that won't get into too much, but maybe go sign with the Blue. Give it a try, or give Detroit a try. And speaking of Detroit, Connor, you're the one who obviously we follow and discuss all world of baseball. We give a little bit of extra love towards the Tigers and Jays because of our location being in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, but we talk it all. And you are a Tigers fan outside of being a host on this on the segment with me. You have some updates about the Tigers and some thoughts. I want you to share that with our listeners.
Yeah, no, for sure, Dave. The Tigers have gone in a new direction recently, starting with last year when they brought in new GM Scott Harris. Well, he's not their GM, he's their president, but he was functioning as a GM essentially, and now he's hired his friend on to be the GM. His name's Greenberg, I believe. Anyway, basically, what you care about, if you're listening here, is that they're moving in a new direction, focusing primarily on controlling the strike zone on both sides of the ball. They want contact hitters, and they want pitchers who get ahead in counts and throw strikes. The marquee player on the Tigers does not do that at all. Javier Baez is the furthest thing from what the new management, who didn't sign him, wants. This guy was one of the worst offensive players in all of baseball last season, and they're praying to God that he can, rekindle some spark offensively for them, because he's been just a black hole at the plate. It's terrible, and he's a high ticket guy for them who's signed for a few more years. What the fan base was kind of hoping for, now that Miguel Cabrera has retired and ended his career in a nice little swan song, was to put his money that was just sitting there in that DH spot doing nothing as Miguel kind of slowly withered away and died. Put that towards something that would entice the fan base. I mean, it's the AL Central. They're notoriously one of the worst divisions in all of baseball, which means that the iron is always hot for striking and going for the first place seed in the division. Even though the Tigers are kind of a mid team, they always seem to have a shot. But they haven't done that, Dave. There's been no splash. There was no Matt Chapman. Fans were clamoring for current free agent JD Martinez to make a return to the Tigers. Mm-hmm. And they're saying, give us his 30 home runs, give us his 275 batting average. It doesn't look like that's going to be the case. The ownership just doesn't seem to want to spend in the way that they used to back in 2012, 2013, 2014.
See, and speaking of people that are free agents and spending money, Blake Snell's still there, right? I said we wouldn't dive into this too much. And today, Garrett Cole, there's been an announcement that Cole's going to be injured for a few months. And it almost just seems inevitable, right, that the Yankees might get Snell and put him in that spot in his absence. And when he comes back, you figure it out, right? That almost seems like such the Yankee way, and how he's still unsigned is unbelievable. But it happens in baseball more than other sports. Some players wait it out, get the right fit. And if anyone's surprised, I'm not saying Snell should go to Toronto. I don't think that's really a fit. It is a fit. It would be good. But the Jays have other holes. And the Tigers, I feel Snell would be a good fit with the Tigers too. Why not? A little pitching depth would help. But it almost seems inevitable that the Yankees are going to be signing Snell any day. I'm refreshing as we talk because I don't want to miss any breaking news for it. But the Tigers, my point getting to the Tigers now is money's there to be spent, and the fans want you to spend it. And there's young talent there on the Tigers, high draft picks, and it's a passionate fan base. Obviously, there's a lot of followers of the Game Sports podcast for multiple years, especially through our audio channel platforms, more so than our video, that really enjoy the Tigers, let's say, and are fans of the Tigers, and we know who was a big starter of the show, but the Tigers Nation, I will praise your fans, but I don't want you to be upset. I'm going to say this to you as I sit here, a Toronto Blue Jays fan who's been chirping Shohei going to the Dodgers and the Jays not doing something. I'm going to be straight with you. The Jays have higher expectations than the Tigers do. Okay, the Jays were supposed to go further last year, heck, the year before. This was arguably last year, this year, a part of their plan. Trust me, plans in Toronto don't really work, and I can pull out other sports too, besides the Raptors. The Toronto Blue Jays were supposed to be at a different level. The Tigers, there's been some retooling, some high picks, right? Cabrera was on his way out. This could have been an opportunity very strong for the Tigers to bring in one or two big pieces to be around these young guys, Thorkelson, Green, be around these guys and help mold them, help grow them. Maybe someone who's already won a championship, maybe somebody who hasn't, but will sign a 4-year deal, because there's obviously, when you're a rookie, you get a little bit of friendliness on that contract for a number of years. You bring in some veteran talent around it to really space out the lineup. That is where I'm going to say two sides. As Tiger fans, don't be too upset the money wasn't spent, because I think the reason of it was that they're really just trying to focus on this young core and give them that big game experience maybe next year. That's what I see from and this new approach. Maybe that's what they're going for. But I can also side with the Tigers fans knowing, okay, we got this money. Let's spend it even on a short term. Let's help let's mold these young kids. Let's maybe have a chance, as Connor alluded to win and go for a division title in a wide open division. Because you have a division that is wide open. You're looking at the Twins, who are likely your favorite to win that division this year. The White Sox are a mess. The Royals are, in my opinion, brutal. The Guardians, they're always that second seed, it feels like, right? So you have that chance to be a second seed. You're behind the Twins. If you're Tigers, you are still behind the Twins. Okay, let's face that realization. But there's an opportunity in a couple years that you could be above the Twins and be back on the top of the Central. And you bring up a good point. That's why I bring up both sides. There could have been each action, but what action do I support? I actually like the waiting. But now that people are still available, JT, yeah, Justin Timberlake, JD Martinez, Blake Snell, these guys that are still available, now that nobody's got them, as far as we know, nobody's signed them. As far as we know, there's nothing in the works. There's rumors, but there's nothing in the works besides Snell, and the Yankees seems to be pretty inevitable. Now spend the money. Nobody's went after them. What the hell are they doing? Just sitting there. Okay, JD, here you go. Here you go. Here you go. All right. Now, baseball isn't like hockey, basketball, football, where draft picks, it's different when it comes to drafting in the MLB. But maybe at the trade deadline, you move Martinez. You can bring in some young assets. Maybe there is a team that's hungry to win. You're not going to get a Shohei Ohtani level prospect by any which means, but maybe you get that guy that could be bat 8th, 9th in your lineup and is a big part of your lineup in the future that gets those small ball hits, that gets on base to help get set up the top of the order, right? That's where I'm seeing now as a Tigers GM. That's where I'd say, okay, these guys are still on the board. Let's be aggressive on bringing in some guys on 1-2 year contracts, have that mold factor, but have the opportunity to give them a chance to play. And if JD is the batting third in that order, if Snell was there, number one pitcher, and has a low ERA on a team that's retooling, the value just goes up. And if you're a team that's now on the retooling, you were rebuilding, now you're retooling, you've elevated, it's good to bring in those players. So as much as I side on both, you're now at the point of saying screw both sides. People are still there. Let's aggressively buy.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm with you on that pretty much entirely. Like, I'm usually like let's be patient, let's play it safe. But I definitely understand the frustration of Tigers fans who spent like 7 or 8 years with Al Avila doing the worst rebuild of all time, losing every single trade. Like, every time that he tried to flip a guy, he would get like the worst possible result. It was so I can understand the impatience, even though they have a new president. The impatience is like the best Harry Potter movie. This segue will make sense. I swear to God. Prisoner of Azkaban. There's this scene where Gary Oldman he's there and he's like, I did my waiting, 12 years of it in Azkaban, and that's how Tigers fans feel. They're like, I did my waiting with this god awful rebuild where we're trading Justin Verlander in 2017, and in 2024, he's still better than any of our prospects are, our first overall picks, any of our high guys. But patience is the right strategy, even if it's the more frustrating one. That's it.
It is. And see, it's amazing because I think the Tigers fans have the expectation to know that they're not a World Series contender right now, but you want to see that buy-in. And people say, well, if you don't you don't believe in your core. When you're retooling, that's not the case. You have a young core, and people that are young understand. But I am a firm believer of having good, strong veteran presence in the locker room will go a long way for youth. To be honest, the Toronto Blue Jays, I have to use as an example. They were young. Vlad, Bo, all these guys came up. And George Springer, you think was the guy that was going to be that strict veteran to help mold? No. I love George Springer. Happy he's a J. But the moves that they made, I feel like there could have been someone else brought in to be a bit more of the mentor for those guys, right? Maybe bringing back Encarnacion, right? Because at the time he was still playing. He's played in Toronto. You're right. He understands the methods of having to play in Toronto. I'm a strong believer of mentorship. And that's why I think JD, why he's still on the board, and the Tigers haven't came and bitten him up. I don't know. I'm just trying to give a little pun to the Tigers. That doesn't really make sense. But one thing that I want to mention here, Connor, before we let you go, we were going to go around to discuss teams, and we're going to save a season preview show in terms of some analysis for the next or the following edition, which will be next week or the week after. Connor will join us, but as he tees up for a busy season, I'm sure. But I want to talk about Mike Trout for a minute. And the reason why I want to bring up Mike Trout is because he's lonely there in Los Angeles. Shohei Ohtani has jumped in his whatever car he has, and I'm sure it's a very nice car, and has drove down the street to his house still. But now he's not going left out of his driveway to work. He's going right. That's the way that I'll use. He's going to play with the Dodgers. We've talked about that numerous times here. You can tell that it's not on my mind at all. The Mike Trout era with the Angels, Connor. He set him free. Hashtag free Trout. I know he's been hurt, but it is time to trade Mike Trout, and the value that you can get from Mike Trout is unbelievable. And I've said this before, and there's one team, and I won't get into this too much because I don't want to get sidetracked, that disappointed me this summer, Seattle. I thought they were going to be more active. They're actually my front runner for Shohei because I heard he likes to vacation there, despite how true that rumor is. Baltimore, they did some good pieces, some moves. I like Baltimore as much as they're in the division. I like their team. Not going to cheer. Obviously, you cheer for one team only, in my opinion. But you cannot look at Baltimore and be like, oh, yeah, that team's not good. They're very good. They're very young. They're talented. They got swag. They got that. They got your cousin, Gunner. Just kidding. It's not your cousin. But they have Gunner. They got a list of, they got obviously Rutschman. They got the great young core there. I feel like Mike Trout would be such a good fit with the Baltimore Orioles. In center field out there, make some adjustments. You got Holiday that you drafted first overall. You got a very crowded infield, of course. You got some prospects that you can move. Mike Trout, when healthy, there's a lot of question about Springer if he was going to stay healthy in Toronto. He's done a fairly good job. He's missed some time, but it's been better than people expected. I think Trout can be along that line too, and you put him in a situation where he wants to be, and maybe with a different scenery, maybe he won't get injured as much all of a sudden. I really feel that if there's a fit for Mike Trout, maybe Seattle can flirt in that conversation, but them being, of course, in the same division as Los Angeles, a little bit challenging, even though Baltimore's in the same whole conference. Maybe there's a team from the NL that makes sense, but I feel that Mike Trout would be a strong fit for the Baltimore Orioles, Connor. So that's why I'm going to segue that to you before we wrap up the segment. Mike Trout, will he be traded this year? And if so, what's your early prediction?
I think the answer is no, because Los Angeles Angels, they can't afford to lose another superstar. Like they're going to be clinging on to this guy for dear life. Like, you sign that contract, you're staying put.
You're stuck.
It would be so cool for him to go to Baltimore. Like when I think of some of their like recent first round picks, like Colton Cowser or Heston
Yeah.
Kjerstad, those are guys who like, could you imagine like being those first round top tier prospects who get to like learn and develop under a Mike Trout on a team that's already loaded and young? That would be so cool to see. And it wouldn't matter, when you got a guy like Trout, it's not one of those situations where it's like, oh, where do you put him? Like, what if the team already has a center fielder? It's the outfield. Anybody can shift places. This isn't a shortstop that we're talking about here. And even if it was, it's Mike Trout. You find room. There is room.
You could probably play shortstop.
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, center field is a 5-tool position.
Yeah.
Typically, up the middle is where you have your most athletic guys.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be shocked if he was a better shortstop than most guys could be otherwise. But I'd love to see it.
People think the Mets or the Yankees are the big key names, right? But what team? Like, there's teams that do. Don't get me wrong. I think Cincinnati has a good prospect pool too. But a team that's young, ready to win now, who would have a better prospect pool to dig in from if you have a star player like Trout to dangle? There is teams I could sit here and really sit down, but I would be eating up airtime. The Orioles are the only team that comes to mind and says, hey, you just mentioned two of them, right? I'd mentioned Holiday. Gunnar Henderson's not going anywhere. He's an untouchable. Adley Rutschman, untouchable, right? There's guys that are untouchable in my opinion, but when you're talking Mike Trout, are they truly? I still think so, especially when you talk about those two guys. But why not Jackson Holiday? I'm sure the Angels would love that. If you're the Angels, if the Orioles come up, and I'm not saying this is a trade, is this going to happen? But let's say you're dangling Jackson Holiday, an MLB ready player, pick one from their roster, a pitcher from the bullpen, choose anyone from their roster, whatever you can think in your mind, and maybe Kjerstad. Maybe you're dangling those two guys. Those are two top prospects and two MLB ready players for Mike Trout. Is that too much? I think it is. I actually wouldn't give that much. I don't think. But it's Mike Trout. So am I crazy to say that? Maybe. But they have it. If you're the Angels, how do you not say no? Despite how you want to make him stay there and he's a star player, how do you sit there and accept a star prospect outfielder and a star prospect infielder with two MLB-ready players, open up that cap room, look at your relocation issues or get the financial shit down pat, and then look at buying players and hit that full reset, especially since they'll likely have a top pick this year. So if I'm the Orioles, I take the chance. You have an opportunity. You already went in the second round last year. Well, you lost to Texas in the second round. But if you have Mike Trout and you make some additions, you're likely moving on. And that's where I think that the Angels should be listening to the Orioles and basically the Orioles only because the money's there for the Orioles and the prospects are there. And the Angels have full motion to trade him where he wants. And I'm sure Mike Trout wouldn't mind going to Maryland, even though he's a New Jersey guy.
Yeah, the only thing that would be a little nuts to see is like, I think Mike Trout literally would make up like almost 40% of Baltimore's payroll currently. So like I don't know how we would go about structuring the numbers on it, but it would definitely be cool to see.
It'd be great. Connor, it's been fun. I know we went a little bit extra, but that's the beauty of our segment. We're just getting ready for the season. We talk Jays, we talk Tigers, players that are still available. Mike Trout, we even gave the Orioles some love. So there's a lot that we're going to talk about in future shows as well. Very interested to see what the next couple of weeks bring leading up to the season. As we lead up to the opener, Connor, we will, of course, have you back on before then for a season preview. And then as the season goes on, we'll get you on more routinely. So that's exciting. But I appreciate you coming by and taking the time to chat baseball. It's always fun. And when that means we're talking baseball now, that means local baseball is also upon the horizon. It's exciting times. It's a change from the winter sports onto the summer is around the corner.
How's your back feeling, Dave?
Better. Still kind of sore. I manage it. I suck it up and manage it. I think my back has accepted it's my back, and I'm at that point where I can still over push it until a certain age, and then we'll see how I feel in a few years. But it's still there.
Understood. But it's been great, and we'll talk soon. Okay.
Definitely, Connor. Great. And that's Connor Henderson, ladies and gentlemen. When we come back, we got Dane and Alex talking to yours truly about hockey. Yes. Don't go anywhere. And welcome back to the Game Sports Podcast. Dave McKay continuing to host you this evening. I'm joined by Alex Parr and Dane Hantro. Let's go to Alex first for multiple reasons, but the main highlight is the sweater that the stat has on. Now, if you're on audio, you're missing out, okay? If you're on video, well, you're lucky. You get to see the Mandalorian with Grogu on the sweater. I think that sweater's bomb. Don't hesitate to send it to me in the mail, Par, so I can wear it.
I needed something with a little bit of green on it since this will be my last appearance before St. Patrick's Day.
Ooh.
So I put some green on.
Oh, I totally could have wore green. Missed that memo here, but that's totally fine. Green also represents our color and our logo as well since day one. Dane Hantro, the dog owner, the guy who's just working his rear end off. He's an Edmonton Oilers fan. He's got great hair today as much as he wants to doubt it. The man, the myth, the legend. Dane Hantro, how's it going, pal?
Exhausted, but very happy about free agency in the NFL yesterday. Kirk Cousins coming to Atlanta, going to throw for 6,000 yards this season. So actually, for the first time since like 2017, 2018, looking forward to a season of Atlanta Falcons football. I know this isn't related to our show, but
hey,
that's all I got for you.
I didn't really say what type of segment this was, so it can be anything. It could be open season right now, but people that know exactly what we're going to talk about the most part in the segment. And if you listen to the opener, I guess, well, you do know what this segment is about now that I kind of take that back. Now, that's a good segue, though, for football later in the show because In the Pocket's going to make a little surprise appearance. But nonetheless, we got hockey we're going to talk about, and there's a lot to get into. And I want to start hot. And the reason why this is – last week we had a vacation, if you will. There's a lot going on in schedules and editing special edition shows. Tristan Grant shows getting uploaded upcoming. Par knows that was a great episode. Now, I wanted to mention the LTIR and the salary cap nonsense in this league. Now, Par mentioned a few months back how the LTIR, the scam of it, Jordan Tutu's was open about it, obviously on social media. So we're not getting into that, though. I just want to talk about the Vegas Golden Knights, okay? And before I get into this topic, the CBA, obviously there's nothing that the NHL can do because of what the current existing CBA is. Can you call an emergency meeting? Look, I'm going to tell you from knowledge in my career, what I do is work to call anything for emergency on CBA or to make any rash changes. It's not too easy, and I can imagine in the NHLPA and the NHL, it's probably not the most easiest thing to do. So when is this going to change? Let me just ease your mind right off the hop. It's not going to change till the next CBA discussion comes on out, all right? And that's the harsh truth, all right? And that's why you have cap analysts. That's why you have generalists in your organization, these experts that are trying to find loopholes, right? And Toronto had contract loopholes before they exploited. Tampa Bay, salary cap, same thing as Vegas is doing right now. They went, 10+ million over the cap when Tampa won the cup. I don't have the exact number. Now Vegas, when Mark Stone comes back game one, and who knows who else will go on LTIR and come back in the playoffs. And conveniently, if the playoffs started today, Vegas is playing Vancouver, if my math is correct. And, well, we don't know how that's going to go. But now you go into the playoffs, and you're cap compliant in the season because of LTIR. You go into the playoffs, now you got Tomas Hertl. You got Mark Stone coming back. Boom, boom. Star players, top 6 players that are going to put your team over the top. And Vegas, again, this year, finds a way. Someone gets hurt. Not saying Mark Stone isn't hurt, okay? I don't like accusing someone that's not hurt, but it's very convenient. And it's like Biz said when he was on television. He said it's a little bit suspect if Mark Stone comes back game one and ready to go like 100%. But is that going to happen? Yes, it is. 100%. Mark Stone will be back game one. But my question is, and I was going to go to Dane first, but I know he's attending off screen and got a lot going on with his pup at home. I'm going to go to Par first. Man, I am so annoyed, and I can sit here and say that I hate Vegas Golden Knights, but it's not that I hate Vegas. They found a loophole, and they're doing it within their means. It's annoying. It sucks that the NHL can't do anything about it, but overall it's just bullshit that it's happening because it does seem unfair.
Yeah, but I mean, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. And I mean, like you say, it's not even really cheating. I would be more on the offense here of like being all over Vegas for cheating, but Mark Stone's got a lacerated spleen, and I feel like that's probably pretty hard to fake. I know the NHL has done a lot of investigating into Vegas to see if like their injuries are legitimate, especially after the last couple of years. So I can only imagine they're going to do their due diligence again, especially with the new head of the Players Association. I feel like he'll probably, I don't know in what capacity or what he would be doing, but I don't know. I feel like it's probably more legitimate and a lot of coincidences that they're probably working with a little bit to manipulate. But I feel like, yeah, it just sucks. I cheer for a team that doesn't win and they win and do all these things. So,
Dane, you're an Oilers fan, and well, it's likely, it's a chance, it depends. Like, I honestly feel if Vegas plays Vancouver in the first round, if that actually happens that way, it's still multiple
if
weeks.
If they make it.
Yeah, that too.
Mm-hmm.
And, you got to think, I hope Vancouver would beat Vegas, not because of what's this going on here, just Canadian team love, but you're an Oilers fan. You may see Vegas in the second round, Dane, if the Oilers get past the first round, which I can foresee, especially if they play LA. I think Edmonton would have their number in the playoffs. You get Vegas in the second round. You're an Oilers fan. Tell me how you're feeling seeing that team ice a team that's 10, 15, whatever, over the cap.
Oh, I mean, I want to play Vegas again. I want to beat them in the second round. But I also think, like, Vancouver's been pretty steady all season. I think they've only lost 3 games, maybe twice all year. I know they just, like, recently were on a 4-game losing streak. Well, not recently, but because now they're on a 4-game winning streak. But, yeah, same player 3 years in a row, same time of the year. It's kind of getting old. I get it. It's within the rule book. I think you need to be cap compliant come playoff time. I think that's what needs to happen. I don't understand the rule that like you're able to load up your team and have a bunch of guys on IR and then come playoff time, like the cap doesn't matter, right? So I think like if you trade for a guy that has a big cap hit and you're over and you have a guy on IR, you got to send players on the waiver wire. Like you can't, or send them down to the HL, which if they have, obviously a one-way contract, they're on the waiver wire. So, I mean, it has to stop because it's kind of getting ridiculous. Every single year, Vegas does this. And, I mean, they got a haul and a half at the deadline this year. I mean, clearly won the trade deadline again this year, right? So, I don't know. Calgary gave them Hannafin out of bitterness against the Oilers. That one pissed me off. I'm not going to lie. That team also, do they, even have a first-round draft pick for the next 10 years? Like, it's crazy.
Wild.
They have 2 first-round picks in the next 3 drafts.
Yeah, because of the
all their seconds and all their thirds as well.
So it's wild.
Got to give George McPhee some credit. He's, you can say jealousy or you can be upset with how it's going. But again, it's not cheating because it's within the rules. But it's getting suspicious that Mark Stone year after year, and then their GM comes out and say oh, it's impossible to tell when he's going to be back. We know when he's going to be back.
He actually said it's impossible to know when he's going to be back, but he won't be back for the regular season. I thought that one was really good.
Yeah,
Game 1,
Stanley Cup for sure, but a couple of days later, game 1 against Vancouver or Edmonton, whoever they're going to be playing in the first round. I mean, I would love for them to get the last wild card spot and then have to play Colorado in the first round, if the Avs even get the first seed in their conference. So
I hope George McPhee says no Mark Stone game 1 and then puts him in game 2 and then flips off everybody. Says, oh, he wasn't ready for game 1. Told you.
Why does that seem like something that might happen? And it's funny because you sit there and think, well, it's not going to be Aiden Hill leading them out of the tunnel game 1. You're going to see Mark Stone. No, it's going to be Mark Stone game 2 leading them out of the tunnel. Just laugh and look like he's 100%. But I like your point, Dane, about cap compliance in the playoffs. Now, obviously, we can't. This isn't
have a little bit of wiggle room. Say
2-3 million?
2-3 million
5.
over the cap, but
round
Vegas
up.
is $20 million over the cap if everybody comes back to their team. They're already close to the cap. So Mantha's contract,
Hannafin.
I mean, off the top of my head, I don't know what he's making per year, 3.5, 4, something like that. Hannafin's making 5 or 6, and then Hurdle's making a lot of money in the 8. range, I believe. So, a cumulative, like we're looking at $15 to $20 million for those three players. And come playoff time, like they're just, I mean, it would be very nice if they just somehow missed the playoffs.
But this
I
is
would
the thing.
love nothing more, but
this is the thing though too. Like I feel if players or the teams are going to be able to have that $5 million room, you're going to have that team. It's like a fantasy trade that we discussed before. You feel like if a team's in last place, they're going to trade for that guy, get retention, and have him on LTIR. They're going to find a loophole in that $5 million too. I truly,
I get on
think
the
the
other
loophole's
side.
good for injuries, but you can do that for within. I think it's a hard cap, same cap in the playoffs as it is the season. No bullshit. Call it the end of the day. Your cap compliant is $89 million, whatever it is, $89 million. That is your cap number for the season. That's the cap for the playoffs. Tough luck. It is what it is, right? That's where my head's at, Par. It's either you have it in there or don't, and it's obvious that you shouldn't have it in there. Shouldn't.
Yeah, but you need some wiggle room, like you say, too. Like, I don't know. Like, let's say
It's unfair for like a team to make it to the conference finals or cup finals and finally have a guy where they don't really know his timeline and then can come back, but then like he can't because they have all these other guys up or whatever kind of thing. So like I get both sides of it, but like Vegas is maybe the spleen thing this time is like whatever, but you're like it's bullshit. Like there's no way that some of those guys couldn't have come back before the playoffs, right?
Dane, I just finished saying that Vegas has been investigated. So you're telling me that you think that maybe the NHL didn't do their due diligence or could be corrupt and turning a blind eye to something? I don't think so. Not this league. This league is very good.
It's so consistent, eh? Player safety is so fucking consistent, too. It's great.
Oh, yes.
So great.
Referees being caught on hot mic saying they're looking for penalties. Oh, yeah.
The two-hander to the head.
Colin Campbell in 2011 saying and sending an email to the league saying he wants his kid, Gregory Campbell, to have less calls against him to the head of the referee department. Yeah, but,
that's an HR issue. I'm just going to tell you right now. That where's HR in this for the NHL? Are they just in the offices, just putting their feet up? What's going on here? Like,
so, yeah. I don't think this is
like why couldn't like Draisaitl just like got a bum ankle for the next 2 months? Like honestly, like we're buzzing right now. Like you know what, we could probably not have him in the lineup and still be fine. But
you can't. What I'll wrap up and say, Vegas though, you can dislike Vegas. That's not what I'm saying, but it's hard to dislike because they're operating within the rules. They're not cheating. Right, but they are cheating. Yeah, but we all know why.
Calgary at the moment.
We all know why. But let us know what you feel about the CBA, what you think the next negotiation should be, if that should be, or if you agree with some wiggle room or not. I'm going to stay adamant, say, fuck the wiggle room, figure it out. Hard cap all day long if you're going to do it. Or let's just go back to the early 2000s, early 90s with no cap. So Toronto can buy everybody. Edmonton can buy everybody. All these wealthier organizations can buy players, and teams like Arizona can continue to suffer. Just kidding. I don't mean that. I do want to bring up one topic before we go to a topic each, and I'm going to combine it into two. So, Par, I want you to chime in on this a little bit more. I was in Columbus this year. It was just before Christmas, and again, it was to reiterate what I said before. It's a fantastic arena. One of my favorite road arenas that I've been to date, and I think it's great. Columbus fans are they're hoots. They like the chirp Leaf fans, believe it or not. That they're actually pretty loud in there, despite not being as loud as what they would be in the playoffs. But they hate. I had a fan tell me how much they hate playing Toronto, and I said, I made a joke saying it's because your team's where they are in the standings, where we are at the time, and the individual said no. No, that's fine. It's how loud and annoying you are. It's not even the fact of online how annoying everybody is. You just come to every arena and you take over the arena. It doesn't matter if you have 1,000, 2,000, or 3,000 people. We take over arenas because we're loud. And I sit here and I don't classify myself as a dreamer Leaf fan. I fantasize about winning the cup in life, but that's I really feel the reason why we go to these games on the road is because they're cheaper, right? It's so expensive in Toronto. And yes, it's quiet in Toronto. We've talked about this before too. But I think that's why people hate us, because we're so loud and annoying at the rinks. And those are the true fans that are at that rink because they can actually afford those tickets.
Yeah, so this dude in question is crying because I don't like when the other team's fans come here and cheer. It should be only our team's fans.
Yep.
What the like? What do you even say to that?
On the road, because that's the only tickets they can afford.
Yeah, well, like, I don't know, sell more tickets to your own fans, put out a better on ice product. I don't know, but like, I don't go to a game in Toronto and go, why are there Islanders fans here? They're so loud. Stop it. Grow up. It's sports. That's what makes it so much fun. The best environment I'd ever been in was that Senators game back in December. 50-50 split on both sides. Go Leafs go. Go Sens go. It was great. It was so much fun. That arena was having a blast. Yeah. Oh my God, a little bit of animosity at a sporting event makes it fun. Crazy. You might want to go tell that to the fans in Columbus next time you get there.
See, that's the thing, is that Leaf fans, they travel to see. That's one thing why I really love the fan base, because we are loyal despite all the bullshit we go through as Leaf fans. Or any fan, Oilers fans go through it. Canucks fans have been in the Cup Finals twice and lost. So it's every fan base goes through something. But it's, as a Leaf fan, why do you dislike the Leaf fans? Because we're everywhere like the plague, and we can be annoying. But this segues us into our question that I want to direct to Dane now. Who has higher expectations, the Leafs or the Oilers?
Easy question.
Easy. Oh, yeah, I think it's the Leafs, and I might be a little biased, but I think it's the Leafs, truly. No? Okay, no, disagree is good. Okay, this is good then.
I would say if you were to look to last year, there was more pressure on the Leafs because they couldn't win a round. And then they lost to a very good Florida team in very quick fashion. I would say the pressure due to, some success in the playoffs for the Oilers. Like, there's only one goal in mind for Edmonton this year, just to win the Cup, right? And obviously it's the same thing with Toronto, but like getting over that Boston hurdle where they're likely playing in the first round, then they might be playing Florida in the second round. So like both teams have massive pressure on them, right? Like they need to go on a run, conference finals at least, and compete in that round and see what happens. But yeah, I think it's weighing on the superstars of both of those teams, right? Like McDavid and Draisaitl are hungry, Marner, Matthews, they're all hungry, and competition's tough this year. I would say in the West, the road to the finals is harder than it is in the East. There's good teams in both conferences, but huge NHL markets, media, fans, the whole thing. I don't know how you kind of weigh it, but the pressure's on.
The Leafs did not go on a 300 million game winning streak. The Leafs don't have the best player in the world. They don't have... It's so far and away gotta be on the Oilers because the Leafs just haven't been that good this year. They have been like a middle of the road, above average, playoff, like a middle of the road for the playoffs and like a slightly above average team. Edmonton, aside from like 1 month, God, that was so much fun to shit on Dan for. They've been great. They've been so much better than the Leafs, and the Leafs are like, they've got 9 defensemen on the team right now, and none of them are really that good. I think, the Oilers have a much better put together team, and I think that shows in the fact that they were actually very aggressive at trade deadline to add to a team that they believe in. The Leafs held on to their first round pick because I don't think management believes in them. Because I don't.
See, and it's kind of, you brought up a good point, and on the Oilers, you can think of Nurse and Bouchard. And I don't know who Bouchard plays with, top of my head. I think it's Ekholm, if I know correctly. I think Bouchard plays with Ekholm.
Generally, yeah.
So, Ekholm was a great ad last year for the Oilers. Term, good defenseman, top 4 guy, right? Believe in that.
60.
Yeah, it's wild.
He's been an Oiler.
Defensive mind, right? He's not going to get you 75 points, but he'll get you 30, 40 points. He'll be plus 1,000 on the season, and he'll block 1,000 shots, right? That's the type of D that Toronto lands at this deadline is Lyubushkin, okay? And Lyubushkin is playing with
top line defenseman,
playing with Morgan Riley. And
number
Joel
one
Edmondson,
D-man.
who struggled in Washington. Going into the playoffs with Morgan Riley and Ilya Lyubushkin as your top pairing defenseman, it's a little suspect when you look on the other side and you can think of the Boston Bruins, who have some injuries on the back end, mind you. Okay, wait till some of those guys come back, like Lindholm. They have a defensive core that is strong. I don't think this is a team that Toronto could win the cup with because of their D-core. Forward-wise, sure. Goaltending, whatever. The Aiden Hill won the cup last year. No one would have thought of it, okay? So, honestly, it's just that D-core. You remember a good point. Pressure at the deadline. The Oilers did buy more. So, I will have to say I think the expectation to win, though the expectations are on the Oilers, but the pressure is on the Leafs. That if that makes any sense at all. Because the pressure is Toronto.
I think if the expectations are higher, the pressure would be higher.
Yeah, I don't think the Leafs have any pressure at all. I think the Leafs, I think management, the coach, and probably the locker room know that this is not the best team that the Leafs have had going into the playoffs, and it reflected in all the moves that they made.
The best team in the playoffs they had was the year they lost in the bubble to Montreal, arguably.
Yeah, I just feel like Toronto's team last year had more confidence in, and I don't know what it is. I think
maybe that's a good thing, though.
They're just bad this year. They've got 4 guys that can score. If you don't make fucking, 8 digits worth of money, you can't score a goddamn goal.
Bobby
the way you look at it is Edmonton has fixed what was not working for them, added depth on defense. They have secondary scoring now. Goaltending, I mean, Skinner and Pickard have been very, very good lately. Still not a lot of playoff experience, but I mean, Pickard has the best stats in the league for any goalie that's played more than 14 games, which is Jack Campbell.
Staying down in the minors. Poor Jack. I don't let go, Jack.
Don't let go, Jack.
Now, yeah. So I'm interested to see people's takes on Oilers, Leafs, expectations, pressure. Let us know. Now, topic each.
Yeah.
You're doing okay time here. We're actually okay. We're in a good spot here. We're really doing time management here on TTSB.
No, we're not. You don't know how to do that.
Alex, Dane, who wants first topic? I think Dane. Since Parr has involved writing, I know Dane's doesn't involve writing, so I think I'm going to go with Dane's topic first, actually.
Yeah, just quick, kind of back to what we were just talking about. We have 4 Canadian teams that have a legit shot at a cup this year, and this might be our best chance in a long time to at least bring the cup back to Canada. So my question is, based off of how the teams have played this year and the road that it takes to get to the final, which team do you think has the best shot at winning a Stanley Cup?
I'll say it first. And I think I'm really torn between Vancouver and Winnipeg, but I'm all Winnipeg. For some reason, I think Winnipeg is built for playoff hockey. They're strong. They're defensive-minded. They're strong in net. Their offense improved. Toffoli and Monahan love that move. I think if I'm looking at a Canadian team, I'll throw an all-in-all team that's top to bottom and can handle the pressure and the physicality of playoff hockey, which should be expected, especially in the West. If you're playing Vegas, whatever team you're playing, it's going to be a tough road, and I think Winnipeg's well built, especially from the D out. They've done a good job over there in Winnipeg, and I think Kevin Cheveldayoff finally took off his scare cap, I'll call it, but from making moves at the deadline, because he was never that. He was active, but he was never. I think this was one of his biggest years where he was one of the more aggressive that he's been. So he believes in this core, and that instills confidence. I think this team's confident. They're well built. Net out. Winnipeg's the team in Canada for me. Park.
I'm going to also say Winnipeg. I just believe in how well Connor Hellebuck has been playing this year. And you need a hot goalie to do it. He has proven that he's been great all year. And that could come back to bite me in the ass too. I mean, he could literally falter because you can only be so hot for so long. But I'll always put my money on the goalie I'm the most confident in. And going into the playoffs out of the Canadian teams, I'm going to pick Winnipeg.
Yeah, I mean, he's the guy that can steal you some games, right, between the 4 Canadian teams. I think if Winnipeg doesn't get the first seed and has to play Colorado or Dallas in the first round, and then one of those teams in the second round, that's 2 very tough rounds of hockey where I think Edmonton has a little bit of a lighter run. I mean, I don't like playing LA 3 times, even though, like, you know, we're their daddy, but something might have to give eventually, right? So, I mean, I don't want to be biased. I'll say Edmonton just because I think their road's a little bit easier, and I just think they've been playing very, very good hockey. Do I think if Winnipeg and Edmonton play each other in a round, I really don't know who's going to win that. I think it could definitely go either way. And, like, Vancouver's just been
can't count out Vancouver, man,
all year, right? And, I mean, if Toronto beats Boston in the first round, watch out. Watch out.
Oh, yeah. We were real scary after beating Tampa last year. Oh, yeah.
Watch out, Florida. We want Florida.
I will pick Edmonton just because I think their route is a little bit easier. And, I mean, the boys have been the best team, I guess, points-wise, you know, after their horrible start. And the fact that, like, now Vegas is at a point where they're probably not even going to catch back up to us after their crazy start and our horrible finish. See what happens. But I don't know. I feel it this year, boys. I feel it.
I feel Leafs Oilers finals beginning of the year too, but now it feels good to be not as biased and not say Toronto to that answer. You know what? Like, it feels good to be
Dane,
with myself.
Thanks for that segment where you could fucking shove Connor down your throat for a segment. That's awesome. Glad you teed yourself up for that one.
Well, Par, I got my pen.
Okay, cool.
I got my papier, if you're French. Cool. Let's go.
I got my timer started here. In the history of the NHL, there have been 57 players to play for both the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Edmonton Oilers. Hold on. I gotta. So.
Okay, hold on.
You guys have
here. Hold on. Yeah, wait. Let me get comfortable here. That if I'm willing to write that fast. Okay, good. You're good. Go.
Hold on. Whoa! What are we doing here? Whoa! Hold on. I'm not done yet. I love the enthusiasm. There have been 57 players that have played for both the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Edmonton Oilers. I'm going to give you guys 30 seconds here in our fake fan segment to write down 3 of who you think have the highest point totals for both teams combined. Their point totals on the Leafs and the Oilers.
Hold on. Repeat that last point. I was talking.
You should have probably just let me explain it from the start.
Excited.
57 players, skaters, have played for the Leafs and the Oilers. You have 30 seconds to write down 3 players who you think have the highest point totals combined on both their tenures with the Leafs and the Oilers. So, for example, Sam Carrick. If you wanted to pick him, I would take his points from the Leafs and the Oilers, and that's his point total, along with 2 more players. And whoever has the most points in total is the real fan.
Okay. All right.
Hold on, guys. Are you ready?
Holy fuck.
Hold on. Here we go. 30 seconds. Go.
I got 2 already. I'm just trying to think of, like, a convenient third.
Oh, well, I'm glad you started before the timer. Dave, thanks for...
in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the one I wrote down was Cody Ceci. I'm not going to use that one after you finish your question.
So you did start beforehand, you mother.
I cheated a little bit, but it's not convenient now.
Well, you guys got 7 seconds.
Holy fuck, this is hard.
3, 2, 1. Pens up. Let me see the pens, Dave.
It's a long name. Can I say what it... Okay, let me finish this.
So, hold on. Okay, sure.
I'm good now. I'm good.
All right. So I'm pulling up the stats here. Dane, I'll start with you. Can you please show the camera what you have written down? And read that off to us. You got Hyman, Lupul, and Barry. All right. Okay.
Lupul, son of a bitch.
Hold on here. Let me pull up the calculator.
He might have got like 10 points as an Oiler, but I know he got a lot for the Leafs.
Best looking guy to wear a Leaf uniform.
Here, hold on. Dave, you can go ahead with yours. It's going to take me a little bit to do the math here on this, and my headphone just died, so it's going to take me even longer now. Hold on a second.
I actually used one of the bad names that Dave mentioned, so I'm not that hot. You want me to show the name? Is that what you said?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead with it, because I got to take some time to add up the points here.
Zach Hyman, Cody Ceci, and Shane Corson.
That's going to be really close.
Ooh, Shane Corson. That was a good one.
Yeah.
Remember that from our captain segment last week? Or, to be honest.
Okay. Hyman between these two teams had 384. Now let's find Lupul on here.
384? Did you say 384?
Yep.
Holy fuck, he has a lot of points. Good for him.
Oh, I mean.
Dave, did you say Cody Ceci?
Yeah,
You're an absolute idiot. Hold on. Cody Ceci has
0.
8 in Toronto and 61 in Edmonton.
Nice.
Offensive D-man in Edmonton, yeah.
The Leafs just didn't use him right now, did we? Shane Corson, 74 for the Leafs, 137 for the Oilers. Maybe I should have thought this out a little bit more just because there's so many variables of the math I got to do. But 211 for Corson.
Oh.
Lupul had 182 for the Leafs. I don't know.
Not many for the Oilers.
He's going to be
182 for the Leafs and 28 for the Oilers.
Oh, it's going to be close here. I like that.
It's going to be really close, actually.
Really close.
Can I?
Cody Ceci, that bastard's going to kill me again.
He is.
182.
I can't believe I forgot about Tyson Barrie. What am I thinking?
Are you kidding me? There we go. You guys should probably talk amongst yourselves for the people.
Oh, sorry, yeah. Yeah, so everyone on audio, just so you're aware, Par is doing the mathematics for the 3 players that Dane and I have picked. Sorry about that, Par. Thanks for the reminder.
Gotcha.
Now, what I'll say kindly is that please don't – you can add us below and chirp us. It'd be great. But see if your totals can beat us. Don't use the Leafs and Oilers, though, because I think now you're already thinking about it if you're a listener. Get someone in close proximity to you to name 2 teams and players that have played for those teams and add up the totals and let us know what you get because we would be
curious. If this was earlier in the summer and we're still playing Puck Dooku.
Yeah, I still play it every now and then.
I would have killed this.
Okay, I've got Daner's total. His players together in their 10 years with the Leafs and the Oilers have scored a combined 765 points.
Nice.
Now, for Davey.
Cody Ceci.
Not even remotely close with a combined point total of 491.
Who's the first? Like, who's the top guy?
I believe it is Vinny Damphouse. For Edmonton, it is at least. And Glenn Anderson for the Leafs. Glenn Anderson would have won it alone just from his tenure with the Oilers with 906 points.
Totally forgot about him too. That was fun. I want to be better prepared next time. That was fun. I like.
There was also 9 goalies that have played for both teams, but I didn't know how to put that in there. Maybe next time. No, maybe next time. Maybe next week. Dave, if you want to. Dave, if you want to redeem yourself, how many times did Dane get up from his seat to check on his dog?
4.
10 times.
Oh, is it that many? Yeah, well,
that many.
She was eating my rug mat for the door there.
So nice.
So.
You've been counting? That's impressive.
I haven't.
People in the videos were like, where the hell is that guy going?
I'm not crazy. I have a puppy, and she likes to eat things, so she's teething. So,
all right. So nobody won the first week of the fake fan segment, eh? You were both fake that week, huh?
Yeah, we were both fake.
All righty.
Dave. We tied, but.
Dave is now. Dave. Hold on. Fake fan times 1. Dane.
Cody Ceci.
Fake fan times 0 with a Cody Ceci guess.
Yikes. That's not addressed.
I don't know how you went for Ceci instead of Barry. That was it was so obvious.
Yeah, I totally forgot because I deleted Barry from my mind before Ceci somehow.
I gather that Toronto did not utilize properly. Oh, let's bring in an offensive power play genius and then let Morgan Riley run PP1.
Yep, go Leafs go. Now, 1986, boys, as I say every week,
Oh, yeah, me and Dane both aren't ready for this. I saw by his face, and I don't have shit. You said 30 minutes. We're at 34, so... darn.
I'll do it quick. Bad draft.
I will do the explanation. It'll give you ample time to figure out what you want to do. 1986, Dane, Alex, and I are going to get our clothes on that represent 1986. You can guess what outfit that would be. I know what I'm wearing. Silk shirt, long hair, those Viper sunglasses, let me tell you, and I got my little scruff going on, and I have the slick back mullet. I'm just looking solid, in my opinion, completely conceited. Now, I'm jumping in my DeLorean. I'm gunning it to 88, and I'm going to 1986, and I'm going to be the GM of the 5 teams that drafted in the top 5 of the 1986 NHL Draft. What teams are those? Let me remind you. Detroit, LA, New Jersey. Seems like I said New Jersey a lot in the 80s in the top 5. Pittsburgh and Buffalo. And what Dane, Alex, and I do is, once again, as a reminder, we draft the top 5 of the draft that we are talking about. Again, this is 1986. We go from 1 to 5 or 5 to 1, whatever order we prefer, based on what we know today about those players. And this has been a very interactive piece on TikTok and YouTube and Instagram. Make sure that you are hitting like, follow, and subscribe and all the platforms of that, and interacting. And let me remind you, the Game Sports Podcast is powered by 91. And the first time I said it on this segment, because Parr called me out on it offline. Having fun. Now, I'm going to go to my picks first. I'm going to give the boys a little bit more time to assess their picks. And I am going to go into my into the way of 5 to 1 is the way I'm going to do it. I'm taking that from Parr's book, I believe.
Are you going to say before every pick, proud to select?
Yep, that's my thing, 150%. And I fit it in somehow in a 60-second clip, all of our picks. So let's go. Buffalo Sabres are proud to select Scott Young with the 5th overall pick. The 4th overall pick, the Pittsburgh Penguins are proud to select Adam Graves. With the 3rd overall pick, the New Jersey Devils are proud to select Teppo Nieminen. With the 2nd overall pick, the Los Angeles Kings are proud to select Vincent Damphousse. And with the 1st overall pick, the Detroit Red Wings are proud to select Brian Leetch. Dane, you're up next.
I got Brian Leetch, Vincent Damphousse, Tucknut, Adam Graves, and Joe Murphy. And I only know who Joe Murphy is because he had a hockey card in Shell in Hot.
Alex Parr.
From 5, Teppo Numminen. He had a lot of games played, a lot of points for defensemen. Great to see. Adam Graves, number 4. We shared that. Vinny Damphousse at 3. Brian Leetch at 2. And if you want to get Wayne Gretzky, you better be taking Jimmy Carson, number 1 overall, because he's going to land you Wayne Gretzky in the trade that shook the hockey world.
Oh.
I like that, Parr. I like that.
Quick audible. I like that.
Under pressure, too. Under pressure, too. Love that.
Green Bay fan for sure. You can't say no to Brian Leetch, though. The guy's a stud. Former Leaf as well. Fun fact of the day.
Yeah, when he was 85. Like
it's 86. 86, but who's counting?
Francis all came to town.
No, he's talking about Brian Leetch was 85 when he played for the
Leafs.
Leafs.
To retire in 2 years.
No, that's what I meant. He was 86 when he played for the Leafs. Convenient.
Oh,
Joe Neuendijk, Ron Francis, Brian Leetch, Bill Housley, Yarkin Lume.
Dave Vanderchuk. Did he play for the Leafs?
Sure did.
Yeah. Okay. He did, but he wasn't old when he did. He was I think he was younger.
He was old as a Lightning when he won the Cup with the Lightning. Now, fellas, that is the full segment for hockey. But now we're going to wrap up with our Would You Rather segment. And I think I wanted to do this because each week we like to do Would You Rather. I feel like it's not only just a good clip for interaction, but I feel it's good just to bring up stuff that is enjoyable as Parr does what he does there to open up the segment. Would you rather, okay, and I'm asking this in connection to the Mike Tyson-Jake Paul fight. Would you rather fight Mike Tyson or Jake Paul? Dane Hancher, go. As of today.
Paul, I don't care. I don't care if fucking Mike Tyson is in a wheelchair at 85. I'm still fighting Paul. And Mike Tyson might lose this fight because he needs a paycheck. But I like if it's a legit fight, I think Mike Tyson, because he just he doesn't feel pain, would smash him in a real fight. And I'm not gonna say Jake Paul isn't a decent boxer. Like he showed that he has a little game. I mean, I'm not an expert in the boxing world. Like I don't know how staged some of these fights are. But Mike Tyson is a killer. A killer. So yeah, I'm fighting Jake Paul all day. He beat the shit out of me. Both of them are going to kill me. It doesn't matter.
Before I answer that, I also wanted to say both of these guys are going to clean my goddamn clock one punch easy. But that's why I'm taking Mike Tyson, because that's a way better story to say I got knocked out by Mike Tyson. Right. And the odds of him knocking me out for longer so I'm not awake to deal with the pain is higher. So I can at least sleep it off.
I would probably just stand there and just get it done.
Yeah, exactly.
Just get it over with. Give me my
just
hit you as hard as I can once and then kill me.
I would want Jake Paul. I would rather fight Jake Paul easily. And here's the thing, if I had to fight Mike Tyson, I wouldn't train. I would take the one-punch knockout. If I fought Jake Paul, I would actually train 5 a days so I can try to talk his teeth out. Because
he would kick the shit out of you, Dave.
I would train for 7 days, 7-hour days. I would hire whoever I needed to. I'd go into debt so I could fight Jake Paul. I've wanted Jake Paul and lose. I don't care. At least I would lose trying, because I would actually try against him. Mike Tyson, I would just love to feel get knocked out by him because it's Mike fucking Tyson. Jake Paul, I would try my best to not get knocked out by that guy because of who he is. But you know what? He does it right. He's the villain. He does it right, like he said in his documentary. So maybe as a person, he's not the same as you see, but I'd love to fight Jake Paul and lose. But I'd love to fight Jake Paul. It'd just be more fun. A lot more fun and enjoyable.
All right, well, when everybody makes fun of you for getting knocked out by Jake Paul, everybody will be like, yo, Paul, you got knocked out by Mike Tyson? That's fucking sick. And I'm like, yeah, I know it is.
Did you know Mike Tyson was there for Tupac's last, for his fight against, Tupac was ringside? That's okay. That's another conversation.
You're saying Mike Tyson killed Tupac? That's crazy.
No. Whoa, wow. No, that mystery was already solved, apparently. No, it wasn't. I missed Tupac. I never knew Tupac.
What's your favorite Tupac song?
Changes. By far. Then my walkout song for baseball is Hypnotized by Biggie. It's for the last 3 years. Back-to-back champs, no big deal. This is the Game Sports Podcast. This has been David McCaig, Alex Parr, and Dane Henschel for the second segment of the show. Anyhow, when we come back, we got more sports coming your way, but I want to say thank you to Dane first. Thanks for getting up only 10 times, not 15 times to take care of your dog.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Exhausted today. It's been a week. I really needed a nap before this, but I hope I held it together for the lads and the listeners. So ready for next week. Probably be a little bit more awake for that.
And your hair looks good too. Alex.
It does. It does look good.
It does look good. I appreciate you, Alex, for coming on and keeping me, sane in terms of time.
No, not really. Trust me. If I was actually in charge of the time, we would be getting out at 30 minutes on the dot every single time.
Okay, well, here's the thing. Next week, close.
We're 13 minutes over.
Next week, you heard it here first. Parr is taking care of the time on this segment.
No, because I'm not the host, so I don't have control over that.
Well, you just got designation for next week. Alex, I love you, and I love what you do. And
love you too, bud.
Again, thank you very much. To you boys, can't talk. We're going to take a quick breather because I need to take that breather because, as I said, we got more coming your way here on the Game Sports Podcast. Don't go anywhere. And welcome back to the Game Sports Podcast. David McKay continuing to host you this evening. As you see in the final segment here on the Game Sports Podcast here tonight, it is yours truly riding solo. I will be getting into, as I mentioned in the opener here in this final segment, football, technically an in the pocket segment for you to enjoy. And I have a little fun point that I want to bring up at the end before I conclude the show. So I appreciate everyone continuing to join me here this evening. Again, make sure you hit like, follow, and subscribe on all the platforms of the Game Sports Podcast, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. If you're on Spotify, Apple, if you're on the 91 Network, YouTube channel, wherever you are, that simple like, follow, subscribe. Interaction goes a long way for us, and we love the interaction, especially on TikTok. Now, I want to dive into football right away here, obviously, with trying to keep up with time constraints here in this final segment and try to keep the flow going great on this segment as we got into a lot of great topics on this episode. It's definitely a lot that we can get into after taking a week off. But speaking of football, this is the In the Pocket segment. I want to give a shout out to Sports Center Bar and Grill, the original home to the Game Sports Podcast back in early 2016, where we were recording on a cell phone on a beer cup. That's exactly what was happening. Yeah, you heard that right. We were recording on a phone, a regular cell phone, on a beer cup, sitting around a table. Wow, how times have definitely changed. And if you've heard that story a million times, well, you heard it again. But make sure I give love to Sports Center, as they are the original home, as I mentioned, and the first original sponsor of the Game Sports Podcast from the Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario-based shows. And all football pieces of information is always brought to you by the, of course, 91 Network, as we mentioned earlier, but Sports Center Bar and Grill. And I want to dive into, of course, in the pocket for the first time solo in a long time, but the NFL was so busy the last few days. It has been intense with free agency period, with trades. The draft is around the corner. It just seems like yesterday that the Kansas City Chiefs just won the Super Bowl, back-to-back champions, defeating the San Francisco 49ers. And I like that Super Bowl. I thought the game was great, back and forth. And of course, the overtime that we got to see, the debatable overtime, if you will, and questionable decisions by the 49ers leading up to, of course, Mahomes taking the ball down the field to secure the victory. And of course, seeing the moment on the field with, yes, Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. Only took 2 minutes and 30 seconds to say that in this segment, but great to say we're talking football right now, and it's not even the season, but the offseason has been so exciting so far, and I want to get into a list of them. Everyone that follows the NFL who's a fan, or if you're not a fan, you've already looked online, you've already seen the sightings, but I'm not going to go through all of them because we would be here for a very long time in terms of trades and signings, but there are about a dozen or so notables that I want to bring up that I had listed. And of course, starting from the top, working my way down, Kirk Cousins to the Falcons. More on that in a minute. Darnell Mooney, of course, also going to the Falcons. Derrick Henry to the Ravens. DeAndre Swift to the Bears. Daquan Jones to the Bills. Joe Mixon traded to the Texans, as well as signing Hunter and Al-Shaair for the Texans. Great moves there. Chris Jones got paid in Kansas City. Massive money, 5 years, $160 million. And Patrick Mahomes, well, he is wanting to restructure his contract so he can open up some more money for the team to spend. Tony Pollard going to the Tennessee Titans for 3 years, $24 million. I think that's a great deal. Aaron Jones to the Vikings, as well as Sam Darnold. Looks like the carousel for quarterback for the Vikings is going to be continuing. Brian Burns traded from Carolina to the Giants. And let me tell you, I grade that as an A for the Giants and a D+ for the Panthers. Look, I don't know what that franchise, that being the Panthers, is doing. Truthfully, I don't see the right decisions happening right now, but I'm going to table that. Saquon Barkley to the Eagles. Yes, 3 years, $37.75 million. A top prospect drafted by the Giants, of course, has been battling injuries throughout his career, but when healthy, he has been a force. If I want to give kind of a comparison in terms of an effect on a team that Saquon Barkley is going to have, I want to look at it from a Leonard Fournette perspective. Drafted by the Jags, he went over to Tampa Bay, and the success was there. I am going to say, of course, that I think the upside is more there for Barkley, of course, given to what he can bring to the table. I think he's going to be very successful on a very good team that has a very strong offensive line and offense in general ran by Hurts. But I think Barkley is really going to bounce back, and I wanted to dive into that a little extra. Patrick Queen to the Pittsburgh Steelers, a team that I cheer for. I think the Steelers got a good value here. 3 years, $41 million. Good piece to add to the system there in Pittsburgh. Baker Mayfield, he picks up the bag. He rakes in. He brings in the cash here. 3 years, $115 million. Gets paid from the Buccaneers. Here's someone that was basically thrown away, moved around the NFL to some teams, not like he went through a dozen teams, but he had to go through some teams before he found the fit, and it was a fit there in Tampa, and he secures the bag there with the Buccaneers. Mike Evans also stays with the Buccaneers. Dorrance Armstrong, Frankie Lavu, and Eckler, Wagner all go to the Commanders. The Commanders were not shy in spending some money. Joe Flacco, Justin Heichel, sports host, analyst here on the Game Sports Podcast, is going to love this. Joe Flacco to the Colts, 1 year, $8.7 million. Little veteran presence, of course, to be a little security there as Richardson, as we expect, will be healthy for week 1. If there's an injury, you got a good backup option there, someone who can really help mold. But I like the system that the Colts have brought in there with Flacco. Now, those are the points and the trades, the signings that I wanted to get to. But the top teams, in my opinion, based on these moves, the most effect on their move and really improve their team. There's a lot of teams you can consider. In my odds, been over a handful, if not at least a handful. The Texans, the Commanders, as well as the Falcons. And you got to give a shout out to the Ravens, to the Eagles, and of course the Jaguars. Okay, the Jaguars also made some good moves there. But there are certain points that I want to bring up, and it brings me back to one with Barkley. I love the Eagles with signing Barkley because he's such a force. And when he's healthy, despite some subtractions there on the Eagles team, additions will still make this offense a force. Heck, just listen to the recent edition of New Heights podcast with the Kelsey brothers. Jason was just going through what the Eagles have added, and even Travis was giving compliment to the Eagles. They have brought in somebody who's going to complement that system well, who's big body. I know I used the term Leonard Fournette. I'm sure a lot of people are going to at me and comment at me on that, but listen, if you look at what Fournette did with the Jags before moving on, and the effect and the change that he did, Barkley going into the right system, could be bring that to the Eagles. I'll bring them back to the promised land there. And of course, disappointment in the playoffs this year. They're not trying to replicate that. The Texans addressed the defensive side of the football. I feel they've given CJ Stroud some more tools up front for the front side of the football, but addressed a lot of the defensive side and really was not shy to bring in some additions despite some attractions as well. The Falcons, look, of course, Dane Hantro, who you've heard already on the show, is a big Falcons fan. He's talked about it in the opener of our segment too, but I'm going to get into it a little bit extra here, and I'm sure he's going to be enjoying this when he plays it back to hear it. The Falcons easily addressed the situation that they've been trying to address for the past how many number of years, okay? This is a team that, after I would say, last year feels that the missing piece in the last couple of years, the missing pieces was the quarterback position. And after Matt Ryan left, they went through different quarterbacks to look and see who is going to be the best fit for this team. And Kirk Cousins is the guy that they found. They obviously spent a great deal of money to bring him in. Again, 4 years, $180 million to bring in Kirk Cousins to a team that is already very stacked on the offensive side of the football. This makes an already great a great team on paper even have the chance to show it more on the field. It can make it very tough for opponents. But here's the question. Is Kirk Cousins the missing piece truly? Is his injury with the torn right Achilles, despite recovering and supposed to be ready for week 1, is that going to be an issue? And let me tell you, I don't think it is. I feel that Atlanta, with returning all 5 starters from already one of the league's top offensive lines, yes, one of the league's top offensive lines, this sets up for a massive offensive delivery coming your way in your living rooms, but in effect to the attention of its opponents. If you get it, you get it. Got to give kudos to the Falcons. I know Falcons fans were waiting for this. Now, if something happens like they did with Rodgers and the Jets, first game gets injured, knock on wood, then this may not age well. But if Kirk Cousins can stay healthy, be the quarterback he can be, he can seriously throw well over, I would say, over 4,000 yards easily. And I mean that easily this year with that offense, and be a top throwing passing yard QB in the NFL this season. A couple more things I want to get into. I actually noted to myself that I wanted to bring up one, but heck, I'm going to bring up 2 here because it made me think of something in terms of quarterbacks. First point, I can't forget about Justin Fields. Okay. The Bears are in a position here where I think it could be a win-win for them. And this is what I mean by that. You can go either way. You can draft a QB. I'm a fan of Caleb Williams. Get to that in a second. And move Justin Fields for future picks, move down in the draft, multiple picks in the draft, but you can move them and maybe look at bringing in some assets if it's another piece on the wide receiver on the offensive side of the football or defensive side. Whatever way you look, you can get, I think, a very good value for Justin Fields. I feel like there are teams that would be willing to pay some high valued assets to bring in Justin Fields, despite what people may say about his performance. He's still a quarterback with leadership ability, good on the field, but maybe not has been set up in the right position. But you put him with the right team and the right system, maybe you have another situation with a young quarterback who didn't work out somewhere that will work out somewhere else. But that's the one move you can look at. You can move Justin Fields, bring in some high value assets, and circle around Caleb Williams And while you're doing that, maybe sign a veteran. Maybe a veteran like how the Colts took the approach with Joe Flacco. Maybe look at Jimmy Garoppolo, or maybe you look at another quarterback to bring in that could be a 1-2 type option to ease this new young quarterback, which would be Caleb Williams, into the NFL on a team that's yet again not going to be that strong and likely have a high draft pick again next year, but we'll have some salary cap room, some ability to bring in some more players after this season to really help bring out Caleb Williams. And next year it's full-fledged on Caleb Williams, getting him in there and surround him with the right talent. Or number 2, you can keep Justin Fields. You keep him in, and you just look at moving that draft pick at the draft, because I'm sure there are teams that are going to covet someone like Caleb Williams, move down the draft and look at the wide receiver, the defensive side of the football, whatever way you want to go. But you can go anywhere with that pick if it's bringing in an NFL-ready talent, if it's trading for a average NFL talent and a high draft pick, whatever it may be. There is a lot of future that the Bears can look at here in options. And truly, to be honest with you, I am leaning towards the Caleb Williams, the Caleb Williams path. I feel like that is a hard piece to turn up, but either way, that despite being a great pick, can Justin Fields maybe follow what Baker did? Can Justin Fields do what Baker has done in Tampa Bay after, starting off in Cleveland and moving around the NFL, gets into the position that he's able to be successful in? Maybe that's what can happen to Justin Fields. Secondly, and I cannot go a point. I've already mentioned the Steelers, but I got to get into one signing by the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm sure listeners know where I'm going to go in this direction. I'd be silly not to talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers, a team that I, of course, cheer for. And I'm speaking as a host here, though. Like I said, the Queen signing was great. I think it's a great fit. Moving Deontay, it is what it is. I feel like they had the ability to be able to move him, to bring in the assets that they did. But bringing in Russell Wilson, I really love that deal. And is that maybe a little bit of bias? No. I'm gonna stop that right there. I know what Russell had in Denver. I know what happened in Denver. It wasn't the Russell Wilson that was paid to be. They paid a lot of money to buy him out, to not play there anymore. But Russell Wilson was somebody who was a premier quarterback in this league. Everyone wanted him on fantasy before. When it came to Seattle, he was able to run the football, throw the football. He's a Super Bowl champion. He's been on a winning culture, a very strong team on the offensive and defensive side of the football. He has come up with that. And also, he's a very strong leader. And that is the point. I think when you bring in a Super Bowl winning quarterback with the capabilities that he has, for the deal that he signed, very cheap, very affordable deal that's not going to constrain anything for the Steelers and is worth every penny for a risk. And that is moving Russell Wilson to a system that is a very strict system. That system being the Mike Tomlin system. There are systems in the NFL, as I say it for the fourth time, that are very sound, that are strict, that can help a player rehabilitate. And I feel like the Steelers had that. Bill Belichick, when he was with the Patriots, I feel had that system. If he would have brought in someone, if Tom Brady went down or something, they could have brought in someone who was more of a project and been able to fix up his career. Those are two examples that I'll use right now. I think the Chiefs have that culture. If Patrick Mahomes ever went down and be a big loss, but they have that team that backs up each other. There's certain systems where quarterbacks would work to bounce back their career. And I feel Russell Wilson is going to be someone who is going to have the opportunity and every piece of opportunity to have a good offensive team with a good offensive line. Is there better offensive lines? Yes, there is. I would feel that the defensive side of football is a lot stronger than the offensive side, but nonetheless, improvement opportunity is there. But it's still, in my opinion, at the average point. But again, this is a quarterback who's mobile and who has been there in the big games, and a veteran quarterback in this league that can be successful given being, again, you know what I'm going to say it, in the right system. Okay, now I don't think Russell Wilson's going to go win the MVP, that he's going to lead the Steelers to the Super Bowl. I'm not saying that at all, but Russell Wilson is going to be someone who will not hurt the team, in my opinion. I feel they'll end the same way they did this year. Mike Tomlin doesn't have losing seasons. This will not be the year. I feel like despite some minor subtraction, there is still some improvement that was brought forward to this team and addressed some areas, and I still don't think the Steelers are done this offseason, as they are in a very competitive division. Who knows what's going to happen with the Bengals? You know, there's still going to be a good team. The Ravens improved. This is a division where they know that they have to make the decision. If they're going to go for it, what are they going to do? If they're not going to go for it, what are they going to do? And by bringing in Russell Wilson, they're bringing in a project. But again, the right fit. And as I said, I don't see a chance that he's going to win MVP or lead him to a Super Bowl. If he does, heck, great. But I feel like this is a situation that's a win for the Steelers. And if it doesn't work, you move on because you got Pickett there. Can't forget that I think Kenny Pickett's the guy that they're going to really try to lean on. But if there's any struggles with Kenny Pickett, you're able to throw in Russell Wilson without any concerns. Or you start Wilson and shock the world with that. And if he doesn't do well, you go with Pickett, and you hope Pickett is able to pick it up for you, if you will, even though I have not been a Pickett believer. What do you think of Russell Wilson? Where do you think the Steelers, will he play more than 6 games this season for the Pittsburgh Steelers, or do you see him being more of a backup for the entirety of the season? Personally, I kind of hope that the Steelers start him to start the year. Won't happen, though. I think Pickett's getting that football. Now, that's enough football for me. As I sit here, I love talking football. I love bringing up the point of one thing. I like leaving people on the thought of one thing. There's been questions. Mason Rudolph obviously has left Pittsburgh and will be signing elsewhere. Should the Steelers trade Kenny Pickett? Would anyone take him? I'll answer that rumor. I've been asked this. I don't think anyone's going to take a chance on Kenny Pickett unless you're going to get a low value return. Keep him this year. Maybe there'll be something that comes up. Be patient. Maybe Russ gets hurt. You have another quarterback. Doesn't hurt to have the option. Keep Pickett. See what the deadline, what you have before you look at any decisions to trade Pickett, or if you're going to keep the 1-2 system, or maybe Pickett takes over the football. Maybe Russell Wilson takes over the football, and you look at trading Pickett. Whatever way you go. Lots of football discussion there by yours truly. It was great. 17 minutes. That's actually not too bad for me for talking. Yes, people may say it's unbelievable to talk to yourself that long, but when you're a podcast host, it's actually pretty easy to do. And when you're social, and it's fun. But I got one last point I want to bring up before I conclude tonight's show. And it's kind of going back to the ice. So obviously I'm wrapping up In the Pocket there. I'll say that closes it up for In the Pocket officially. I'm going to save more reaction, any more updates. I don't feel right doing it, or any more reaction. I want to wait till I have the crew, EJ and Justin, with me, and hopefully that can happen next week, or at least the week after, and as we get closer to the draft, whenever it may be, and we can fit into the schedule. That's the football you get from Dave. 18 minutes of me already talking about it. I will hold it there. And again, that was the In the Pocket segment. That is, give a shout out, and sponsored by Sports Center Bar and Grill. Now let's transition back to the ice for a slight point here to conclude the show. Joshua Ho-Sang. If you're a hockey fan, you know who Joshua Ho-Sang is. Formerly a top prospect. Obviously somebody that was to be a big effect in the National Hockey League, drafted by the New York Islanders. Heck, he wore 66 growing up. He got some flack for that. But Josh Ho-Sang hits your ears with his new rap album, Pick Up Pro, or Pup, whatever you want to call it. And you know what? You can listen to some pure beats on Spotify. Some titles such as Pappy for MVP. Yep, that's about who you think it's about. It's Time to Grow Up and Hope for the Best. Those are 3 titles that I will pass on to you. Have I listened to them? Yes, I decided to give them a chance. Is it my type of music? Nah, no, not really. It's not really what I put on my routine on repeat Spotify list by any which means. But you know what? He actually ain't half that bad. He's got some good beats in there. He's got some good rhythm that may get your head to move along with the music. Josh Ho-Sang now has a rap album released on Spotify. If you didn't know that, now you do. Now you do. But speaking of hoping for the best, which is one of his songs on his album, rather, the former top prospect, NHL player, and former KHL player has signed an ECHL contract with the Florida Everblades, a team that's currently looking for their three-peat in the ECHL and sits 5th place in their respective Eastern Conference. Now, how does he do on his return? Well, let me know what you think below. If you want my opinion, I think he's going to come back and surprise us. And who doesn't love a comeback story? If you want to know what that means, I am answering it for you. Who doesn't love a comeback story? It can be good. It can be a bad reaction, whatever way you want to take it. But however way you want to take it, think of it this way. how great of a story was it for Cody Hodgson? Yes, different scenario, and Joshua Ho-Sang hasn't been out of the game too long or as long. One's an injury, one just it didn't work out anymore. But wouldn't it be a great story that Joshua Ho-Sang has a great season, maybe wins against the three-peat with the Florida Everblades. Next year, maybe gets a call up to the Florida AHL team, signs there. Midway through next season, he's on a line with Tkachuk in Florida. You never know what can happen. Heck, he made a rap album. I never thought that the guy could sing. There's a lot of hidden talents out there, sing or rap, in every way you want to put it. Did not think that he would do that, but he did. And you can search on Spotify if you want to listen to some rap beats to pump you up, per se. Joshua Ho-Sang making his return to hockey, however, signing in the ECHL. His album gets released. Next day, he's signing in Florida. Joshua Ho-Sang is trending. Joshua Ho-Sang, his name is out there, and it's a name to keep an eye out for. I'm not going to give any negative criticism, any positive criticism. I'm just going to sit back and wait and say the point, in my opinion, where I mention that I'm just going to wait and see what happens. But who doesn't love a comeback story? And I do hope that this is a positive one, because it makes for a lot of good conversation on podcasts such as this here on the Game Sports Podcast. We're pulling for you, Josh. I am. I won't speak on the other analysts because they're not here to do so, but I'm pulling for you. Truthfully, I think it's going to be a great story to follow as this season persists. This has been the Game Sports Podcast. I am David McCaig, the host of the Game Sports Podcast. The Game Sports Podcast is powered by 91N. That's 91 Network. 91 Network is a YouTube channel with a variety base of podcast content on it, from sports, mental health, wide range of content for you to enjoy. And the Game Sports Podcast is on the front of that for 91N. You can also look at Spotify, Apple, Google, Amazon, wherever platform you like to look out for podcasts or listen to podcasts. Just make sure you like, follow, and subscribe, and follow us. We greatly appreciate it. And we're also on social media. That's Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. A lot of interaction on a recent TikTok. There's well over 70% of you who, actually, I lied to you, well over 80% of you who interact with us that do not follow us or normally interact. So make sure that if you want to keep an eye out for great content such as we recently uploaded, as well as all of our uploads, that you are following the Game Sports Podcast on TikTok as well. I want to say thank you to Alex. I want to say thank you to Dane. I also want to say thank you to Connor Henderson. And, of course, to the listeners for joining us here on the Game Sports Podcast. Next week, we will have a special edition upload and a new show next week. We will have EJ hopefully coming on next week to talk March Madness, and we'll get into some more hockey next week and more hot topic sports. But be prepared next week for 2 uploads. And I want to kindly remind everybody, for the month of March, going into April and May, our schedule does go a little bit more sporadic. It's not as consistent as it would be from September until the beginning of March, where we have 2 episodes a week. During the spring and summer months, we more so go to more special edition uploads, but also more one news shows per week. But there's a lot of content that you can check up on, such as the Bitter Rivals podcast or the Full-Time podcast, again, all on 91N. So hopefully you're able to follow all that. If you didn't, email us, 91networkssm@gmail.com, or the Game Sports Show ssm@gmail.com. I did not change that email, and I will not. It still shows a little bit of nostalgia. You can never stop nostalgia. If you're on video, you saw me point at the Men's League, the Game Sports Show jersey. Again, this has been Dave McCaig, the Game Sports Podcast. Here to remind you, keep your stick on the ice, swing your bats, catch your touchdowns, drain your threes, and shoot your shots. Booyah.